I worked in corporate recruitment for 6 years before I understood what certain interview questions really meant. The good companies ask about your strengths and where you see yourself in 5 years. The bad ones ask how you handle stress and whether you live alone. I should have paid attention during my interview with Marcus. He ran a mid-sized logistics firm in an office park 20 minutes outside the city. The building looked fine from the outside. 3 stories of tinted glass and beige paneling. The parking lot was always half empty. I remember thinking that was a good sign, like they had room to grow. Marcus interviewed me himself. No HR present. He was in his late 40s, well-dressed, the kind of confident that comes from never being questioned. He asked standard questions for the first 10 minutes. Then he asked if I had family nearby. I said no. I had just moved to the area. He asked if I lived alone. I hesitated. He smiled and said it was just to understand my commute flexibility. I said yes. He hired me on the spot. The job was exactly what he described. I coordinated shipments, managed driver schedules, handled client calls. The pay was slightly above market rate. My coworkers were polite, but distant. I figured they were just busy. It took me 3 weeks to realize they were careful. No one stayed late. No one volunteered for extra projects. No one ate lunch in the break room if Marcus was in the building. I asked one of the senior coordinators, Angela, if there was something I should know. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said Marcus likes hard workers. She said it like a warning. I started noticing small things. Marcus would appear in doorways without making sound. He would stand just close enough that you had to step back. He complimented my work constantly, but never around other people. He would email me at odd hours, nothing urgent, just checking in. One Friday, he asked me to stay late to finish a report. Everyone else had already left. The office felt different after 6. The fluorescent lights seemed harsher. The silence had weight. I worked in my cubicle near the back. Marcus stayed in his office with the door half open. I could hear him on phone calls, his voice low and steady. Around 7:30, the call stopped. I heard his chair move. Then nothing. I kept typing. I was almost finished. Then I felt it. Someone standing behind me. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to hear, breathing. I turned around. Marcus was 3 feet away, hands in his pockets, smiling. He said I was doing great work. He said he appreciated my dedication. He said most people were lazy, but I was different. He said he could tell I was someone who understood loyalty. I thanked him. I said I was almost done. He did not move. I turned back to my screen. My hands were shaking. I could still feel him there. I finished the report as fast as I could, saved it, stood up. He stepped aside just enough for me to pass. I walked to the elevator. He followed at a distance, still smiling. The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. He stayed in the hallway, watching. As the doors closed, he said he would see me Monday. I sat in my car for 20 minutes before I felt steady enough to drive. Monday, he acted like nothing happened. Tuesday, he assigned me a new project that required late hours. I said I had an appointment. He said we could work around it. Wednesday, he asked again. I stayed until 8. He stayed until 8:15. It became a pattern. If I worked late, he worked later. If I left on time, he would email me that night. Nothing inappropriate in the messages, just observations. Just reminders that he noticed everything. Angela pulled me aside after a month. She told me to start looking for another job. I asked why she did not just leave. She said she had tried. Marcus called her new employer and told them she was unreliable. She withdrew her acceptance and stayed. I did not believe her until I applied to 3 companies and received rejections within days of submitting. All 3 mentioned they had spoken to my current employer for a reference. I had not listed Marcus as a reference. Where are you watching from? And are you watching alone? Subscribe and stay. I confronted him in his office. I kept my voice even. I asked if he had contacted companies I applied to. He leaned back in his chair. He said of course he had. He said it was his responsibility to provide accurate information about employee performance. He said if I wanted to leave, I should have discussed it with him first. He said loyalty goes both ways. I asked what he meant. He said good employees are hard to find. He said he invests in people and expects that investment to be respected. He said if I stayed and worked hard, I would be rewarded. He said if I kept trying to leave, things would become difficult. I told him I was giving 2 weeks' notice. He said that was my choice. He said he respected my decision. Then he smiled and said he hoped I had savings because job searching can take a long time. I worked my 2 weeks. I applied to 30 jobs. I received 2 interviews and both ended abruptly after the hiring manager stepped out to take a call. I knew it was him. On my last day, Marcus asked to speak with me privately. We went into his office. He closed the door. He said he was disappointed. He said I had potential, but I lacked commitment. He said the professional world is smaller than people think. He said reputations matter. Then he handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter of recommendation. Glowing. Perfect. He said I could use it wherever I wanted. He said all I had to do was tell people I left on good terms. He said if anyone asked, I should say Marcus was a great boss, and I learned a lot. I asked what happened if I did not. He said nothing for a moment. Then he said he knew where I lived. He said he knew I lived alone. He said he was just making an observation. I took the letter. I used it to get my next job. When they called Marcus, he gave me a perfect reference. I stayed silent. I told people he was fine. I never mentioned the late nights or the emails or the way he stood too close. I never said anything because I was afraid of what would happen if I did. That was 4 years ago. I still see his name on LinkedIn. He still runs the same company. He has new employees now. Young, eager. I wonder if they work late. I wonder if he asks them if they live alone. I subscribed to the company newsletter once just to see. Last month I got an email from an address I did not recognize. The subject line was blank. The message said, Marcus says hello. There was a photo attached. It was my current office building. Taken from the parking lot. I have not opened any emails from unknown senders since. But I know he is still watching. The tech industry moves fast and burns people out faster. I learned that in my first startup job. What I did not learn until later was that some people do not burn out. They just find new ways to keep the fire going. I got hired as a project manager at a software company that made inventory tracking tools for warehouses. Boring work, but stable. The CEO, a woman named Caroline, had founded the company 8 years earlier. She was sharp, driven, and incredibly good at making you feel like you were part of something important. The team was small. 15 people. Everyone worked hard because Caroline worked harder. She was always first in and last out. She answered emails at 2 in the morning. She took calls on weekends. She said we were building something that mattered, and that sacrifice was temporary. I believed her. The first few months were intense, but manageable. We shipped updates on time. Clients were happy. Caroline praised the team constantly. She bought lunch on Fridays. She gave thoughtful gifts on birthdays. She remembered details about our lives. She made us feel seen. Then we landed a major contract. A national retailer wanted to implement our software across 200 locations. It was the break we needed. Caroline called an all-hands meeting and told us this was our moment. She said the next 6 months would be hard, but the payoff would be worth it. She said we were a family and families push through together. The hours increased gradually. 50-hour weeks became 60. 60 became 70. Caroline instituted mandatory Saturday work sessions. She called them sprints. She said they were temporary. She brought in catered breakfast and stayed with us the entire day, working alongside us, never complaining. It felt wrong to complain when she was right there doing the same thing. One of the developers, a guy named Ethan, started showing signs of exhaustion. He fell asleep at his desk twice in 1 week. Caroline pulled him into her office. When he came out, he looked pale. He worked even harder after that. I asked him what she said. He told me she reminded him how lucky he was to be part of the team. She told him other people would kill for his position. She told him if he could not handle the workload, she understood, but she would need to find someone who could. He said it kindly, like she was doing him a favor by keeping him. The contract deadline got moved up. Caroline said the client wanted to launch earlier than expected. We would need to double our output. She instituted evening check-ins at 9 p.m., mandatory. Everyone had to report what they accomplished that day and what they planned for the next. The meetings lasted an hour, sometimes longer if she felt someone was not contributing enough. I started losing weight. I was not eating properly. I was sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. My partner asked if the job was worth it. I said it was temporary. I said once we launched, things would calm down. Caroline told us the same thing. 2 months before launch, one of the designers quit, just did not show up one day. Caroline gathered the team and said some people are not built for high-pressure environments. She said it was better to find out now. She said we were stronger without weak links. She redistributed his work among the rest of us. A week later, Ethan collapsed in the office. Paramedics came. He was dehydrated and had not eaten in 20 hours. He was hospitalized for 3 days. When he came back, Caroline had a private conversation with him. He handed in his resignation that afternoon. She told the team Ethan decided startup life was not for him. She wished him well. She said we needed to stay focused. I started noticing things. Caroline was not working the same hours we were. She would leave at 7 and send emails from home. She would take long lunches and return energized while the rest of us were fading. She was performing exhaustion, not living it. I made the mistake of mentioning it to a coworker during a rare break. He went quiet. Then he said, Caroline had cameras in the office. Not for security, for monitoring. He said she reviewed footage and took note of who was working and who was talking. He said someone had complained once, and she knew about it within hours. I looked up. There were cameras in every corner. I had assumed they were standard security. I never thought about where the footage went. Launch day came. We delivered on time. The client was thrilled. Caroline threw a party at her house. Catered, open bar. She gave a speech about how proud she was. She said we were the best team she had ever worked with. She said the hard part was over. Monday morning, she announced the client wanted to expand to 500 locations. She said we had proven ourselves. She said this was the opportunity we had been working toward. She said the next phase would require the same level of commitment. I realized then it would never end. I put in my 2 weeks' notice. Caroline called me into her office. She asked why I was leaving. I said I needed better work-life balance. She nodded. She said she understood. Then she asked if I had signed a non-compete agreement. I had. Everyone did during onboarding. She said the agreement was very broad. She said technically, I could not work for any company in the logistics or software space for 2 years. She said she hoped I had savings. She said she did not want to enforce it, but she would if she had to. I asked what she wanted. She said she wanted me to stay. She said she valued me. She said if I stayed and helped with the next phase, she would personally write a recommendation that would open doors anywhere. She said if I left now, she would make sure I regretted it. I stayed. The next phase was worse. 80-hour weeks. Sunday work sessions. Caroline started tracking our computer activity. If you were idle for more than 10 minutes, she would message you asking what you were working on. She instituted a policy that all vacation requests needed 4 weeks advance notice and had to be approved by her personally. No one's requests were approved. People started breaking. One woman developed a stress-related heart condition. Another started having panic attacks in the bathroom. A developer began drinking at lunch and never quite stopped. Caroline said high performance required high standards. She said we were professionals. She said if we could not handle it, we should leave. But leaving meant triggering the non-compete, and she made sure we knew she would enforce it. I lasted 8 more months. I was hospitalized twice. Once for exhaustion. Once for what the doctors called a stress-induced cardiac event. I was 31 years old. When I got out, I quit without notice. Caroline sent me a letter from her attorney within a week. The non-compete was being enforced. I could not work in my field for 2 years. I had no savings left. I had medical debt. I had nothing. I worked retail for a year. Then I drove for a rideshare company. I applied to jobs outside the industry, but my resume had a gap, and no one wanted to take a chance. By the time the non-compete expired, I was so far behind I could not catch up. I see Caroline's company in the news sometimes. They are doing well, growing, hiring. I see the job postings. They always mention a fast-paced environment and a passionate team. They always say they are looking for people who go above and beyond. I wonder how many of them know what that really means. I wonder how many of them will last. I tried to warn someone once, a kid who reached out on LinkedIn asking about the company culture. I told him the truth. He thanked me. Then he forwarded my message to Caroline asking if the claims were accurate. She replied to him. She said I was a disgruntled former employee who could not handle the workload. She said I had performance issues and left on bad terms. She said he should not take career advice from people who could not succeed. He took the job. I deleted LinkedIn after that. But sometimes I still get emails. No name, no subject, just links to articles about the company's success, about Caroline winning awards, about how she built a thriving business through hard work and dedication. I know she is reminding me she won. I know she wants me to know I will never recover what she took. My first restaurant job was at a family-owned Italian place when I was 16. The owner yelled a lot, but it was the kind of yelling that came from stress, not cruelty. I learned early that kitchens are loud, hot, and unforgiving, but they are honest about it. The dishonest ones hide it better. I was 24 when I started working at a high-end steakhouse downtown. The kind of place with a dress code for diners and a 6-month waiting list for reservations. The executive chef, a man named Raymond, had 2 Michelin stars and a reputation for perfection. Getting hired there was supposed to be a career breakthrough. The interview was professional. Raymond asked about my experience, my technique, my ability to handle pressure. He watched me prep vegetables for 10 minutes without saying a word. Then he told me I had good hands and offered me a line cook position. I started the following Monday. The kitchen was immaculate. Stainless steel surfaces polished to a mirror finish. Knives sharp enough to split hairs. Everything had a place, and everything stayed in place. Raymond ran the kitchen like a surgical theater. Quiet, precise, no wasted movement. He barely spoke during service. He would stand at the pass, plating dishes, inspecting every element. If something was wrong, he would look at you. Just look. No words. You knew to fix it immediately. It was intimidating, but it made sense. High standards require high discipline. I respected it. The problem started small. A cook named Javier plated a steak that was slightly over temperature. Raymond did not yell. He calmly told Javier to throw it away and start over. Then he docked Javier's pay for the cost of the wasted meat. $200. Javier did not argue. None of us did. We were too afraid of being fired. Raymond had a rule. Mistakes were expensive. If you burned something, you paid for it. If you dropped something, you paid for it. If a customer sent something back, you paid for it. He kept a ledger in his office. Every mistake, every cost, deducted from paychecks. One bad night could wipe out a week's wages. We started working scared, triple-checking everything, moving slower to avoid errors. Raymond did not like that either. He said we were sluggish. He said a good cook works fast and clean. He said if we could not do both, we did not belong in his kitchen. A sous chef named Marissa tried to push back. She said the pay docking was illegal. Raymond listened. He nodded. Then he fired her on the spot and told her to leave immediately. Security escorted her out. We never saw her again. No one mentioned the ledger after that. Raymond started instituting fines for other things. If you were late, $50. If your station was not perfectly clean at the end of the night, $100. If you forgot an ingredient during prep, $75. He said it was about accountability. He said professionals do not make excuses. My paycheck started shrinking. Some weeks I took home less than minimum wage after fines. I could not afford to quit. I had rent. I had loans. I had built my reputation around working at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Leaving would look like failure. Raymond knew that. He knew all of us were trapped. One night, a server dropped a tray of entrees in the dining room. 6 plates. Ruined. Raymond did not blame the server. He blamed the expo cook who handed off the tray. He said the cook should have ensured the server had a proper grip. He docked the cook $400. The cook, a young woman named Stephanie, started crying. Raymond told her to go home. She left. She did not come back. We were understaffed after that. Raymond did not hire a replacement. He said we would adapt. He redistributed her responsibilities. We started working longer shifts with no additional pay. If you clocked out early, you were fined. If you clocked overtime without permission, you were fined. There was no way to win. I started noticing other things. Raymond would eat family meal with us before service. He would watch us eat. If someone did not finish their plate, he would ask why. If you said you were not hungry, he would say you were wasting food and fine you. If you forced yourself to finish, he would smile. It felt like a test we could not pass. One of the line cooks, a guy named David, had a panic attack during service. He hyperventilated and had to sit down. Raymond told him to go to the office and calm down. When David came back, Raymond pulled him aside. I heard them through the door. Raymond said panic attacks were a sign of weakness. He said weakness had no place in his kitchen. He said David could either prove he was strong or find another job. David stayed. He worked through 2 more panic attacks that month. Then he quit without notice. Raymond told us David was unprofessional. He said real cooks push through. I think about David sometimes. I wonder if he is okay. The final break came 3 months before I left. A new cook named Sam made a mistake during a busy Saturday service. He overcooked a fillet. Raymond pulled him off the line in the middle of service. He took him into the walk-in cooler. The door closed. We could hear Raymond yelling. Not the normal kitchen yelling. Something worse. Personal. Vicious. It went on for 5 minutes. When the door opened, Sam was shaking. His eyes were red. Raymond walked past him without looking back. Sam finished the shift. Then he walked out and never returned. I asked another cook what happened. He said Raymond does that sometimes. Takes people into the walk-in and breaks them down until they cry or quit. He said it had happened to him once. He said he stayed because he did not know what else to do. I realized I did not either. I started planning my exit. I saved what little I could. I reached out to old contacts. I applied to other restaurants. One place called me for an interview. The chef seemed interested. Then he said he wanted to call Raymond for a reference. I told him not to. He asked why. I did not have a good answer. He said he could not hire someone without a reference from their current employer. I withdrew my application. I tried 2 more places. Same result. Raymond's name carried weight. Leaving without his approval meant career suicide. I finally quit after he fined me $300 for a plate that a customer complained was too salty. The customer was wrong. I tasted it myself. It was perfect. Raymond said the customer is always right. He said I should have known better. I told him I was done. He said I was making a mistake. He said I would never work in a respectable kitchen again. He said he would make sure of it. He kept his word. I applied to 15 restaurants over the next 2 months. Every single one called Raymond. Every single one rejected me. I started applying to casual dining places, chain restaurants, anywhere that would not care about a Michelin reference. I got a job at a sports bar. I make 1/3 of what I used to. I prep frozen appetizers and pour beer. No one knows I trained under a Michelin-starred chef. I do not tell them. Raymond still works at the steakhouse. I see reviews online. People rave about the food. They call him a genius. They say eating there is a transformative experience. No one mentions the cooks who leave in tears. No one asks why the turnover rate is so high. I saw him once, a year after I quit. I was walking past the restaurant on my way to the bus stop. He was outside, smoking a cigarette, still in his chef's coat. He saw me. He smiled. He did not say anything. He did not have to. I know he remembers. I know he is proud of what he did. I know somewhere in his office there is still a ledger with my name and a list of mistakes I can never pay off. I cross the street now when I walk past that block. I tell myself it is coincidence. I tell myself I am over it. But my hands still shake when I hear yelling in a kitchen. And I still have dreams about the walk-in cooler. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more stories.